Hi guys, now it is time for the texturing phase of this tutorial, but before we get into that, I'm going to show you one thing that I added in, which is this bit here. So I've got these little ridges up here, and I added another little clip on the side, and what this is a way for the people to get inside the vehicle, because there was actually no way for anyone to get in. So you can see we can open that up. We can't open it up very far. We can probably edit that later if we need it to open further. But for now, that's fine. You can still edit your mesh after the textures, by the way. So yeah, this is my vehicle so far. And I'm going to bring up this. It'll come up. There we go. I did a clay render of the vehicle, and this is a clay render here, and I gave it just a quick gradient effect. This is literally just a physical sun sky, no effects or anything, so this is just to see what we have so far. And so it's a good starting point just to see what's happening. And if I just close that for now, go into the world panel, we need to first switch over to cycles render, because we can render this in Blender internal. Blender does do quite a good render if you know what you're doing, but the thing is, cycles is the new thing. It's very more relevant to any other render engine that you'll work with, so I think it's going to be better for me to teach you guys how to use cycles than anything else. Okay, so I'm just going to go sky texture, and I'm just going to grab one of these, say this one here, and I'm just going to be using the CPU for this. I need my GPU to run the recorder, so yeah, adjust that up and just switch over into rendered view. And just see what we can get. I want to turn the turbidity up to about 3. That's just think of turbidity as the yellowness of the sky. It's to do with time of day and stuff. And yeah, 3 is going to work quite nicely. You can see we're getting quite a nice daytime effect here. Strength at 1 should be fine. And what we're going to do in this first step is we're going to create some shaders. So we're going to be focusing on creating a few shaders. I've got a list over here somewhere. We're going to be creating metal, rust. Those are the two ones that are going to be the most prominent out of all of them. We are going to be creating a bare metal underneath that as well. So we're having a very layered effect for our panels and armor. So we'll have, say, the dirt on the top, dirt and grunge. Underneath that we'll have the paint. Underneath that we'll have the rust. Underneath that we'll have the bare metal, and we'll also have some scratches in there as well. So this is going to be a very layered effect. We're going to be doing a lot of texture painting. Going to have a lot of layers to manage, a lot of images. It's definitely a very big process. It's effectively, think of it as the same amount of work that's in the modeling process, but very confined into one little area. So trying to fit it all in the box. So yeah, we need to do that. I've also got other shaders as well, such as like mud, sand, plastic, glass, rubber. There's quite a few. However, to make it easier, we have there's one thing I'm going to be using. Go File, Open, and just come out to our shaders. I have right here this presets collection. Now this is something that was put together by Meta and Jokdo. I can't remember his actual name, but you can find this on blendswap.com. This is a Creative Commons 0, so I can actually put this in the resources for you. And yeah, by all means, So this is going to be definitely going to help, especially with the number of shaders that is in here. So you see under this one here, got two different ones there. Got rubber. Might use this one here for the tires. So yeah, it is definitely going to help. So let's grab just the door for now. I'm going to go Shift H to hide everything else. And this here is going to be just our test panel for now. And make sure Simplify is turned on. It's up top now for some reason. So yeah, Simplify, you want to have that turned on for now because it's going to be very dense otherwise. And we're just going to create a new shader. So we're going to start off with our paint, so our car paint. And I'm just going to go. Alright, so I tend to put SHDR underscore under before every shader I do, as a habit from working with Mental Ray, where it can get very messy. You don't have to do this in cycles, but it is quite helpful to have, this is a shader in your material settings, and ones that you use that aren't shader, you often use ones that are sort of part of a shader. They are a little bit different. So let's squish this down, squish this across. So we're getting a very compressed view here. We're going to be using one of these as a 3D view. One of these is going to be our rendered view. And up the top we're going to have the node editor. Alright. Just bring up my notes. Okay, so let's start working with this one. So this one here, we will need a diffuse. We will also need a glossy. I'm going to assume that you guys already know how to use cycles. You know a little bit about it. So I'm not going to go and describe every single piece, but hopefully you'll pick up a few tips along the way. So I'm just going to mix these two together, and we're going to use a Fresnel to mix these. So the Fresnel is in, there it is, Fresnel. It's also called Fresnel, but I'm pretty sure the actual pronunciation is Fresnel. 1.45 will probably be alright. We might adjust that a little bit later if we need to. Alright, and what we're going to do is go Shift A, Input, RGB, and duplicate this, and this is effectively the colour of our paint. So hit something up like there would be good. Copy that and we make one that's just a little bit darker. So something like that. So these are the two colours of our paint here. And to mix these, we use what's called a layer weight. So this is also known as a facing ratio if you used other rendering engines. And just turn my microphone. Sorry, just realised I was pointing the wrong way. Okay. So you'll use the facing ratio there, and we'll blend these ones together. So we've got our diffuse and our glossy, and we want to go Shift A, Color, Mix, and we plug this one in here, this one in here. let's go. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to. So I can probably just go create a hue saturation and value, and what I'm going to do is I am going to delete that one. Oops, move that up. And I'm going to use this one here and just adjust the hue of the second one using the first one. So we can take, say, the value down a fraction, saturation down a couple, and perhaps have the hue across by 0.05. So 0.5 leaves it where it is, and then you can move it left and right. Okay, and we will use the facing ratio as the mix on this. Throw that into the diffuse there, and we'll see how this works. And this is what we have at the moment. So you can see we can turn down this value to a black, and you can see how it sort of fades to a slightly darker colour as it gets to the end. So it's sort of like fading from this colour to this colour. And our blend will probably be, let's go 0.1. So that looks 0.1. Okay, so it's looking fine. So I'm specifically doing a car paint shader that doesn't have speckles in it, by the way. I just want a smooth shader. Alright, and let's go ahead and we will duplicate these. Duplicate these down, and I'm going to use those same colours. I'm just going to make this one here maybe a 0.7. This is a very common car paint shader, by the way. So yeah, it's quite common. You'll see it around a fair bit. Just going to move those over. Duplicate this mix shader, and we're going to mix together another diffuse and a glossy. So we're going to have this one here will be our glossy, and this will be our diffuse up here. Alright, so we're going to mix, and we want to mix not into the diffuse, we want to mix straight into the factor there. Alright, so we're getting that nice gradient fall off. I'm not sure if you can see it in the resolution. I'm not sure what resolution this is going to end up at. I'm recording in full HD, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to end up at about 720p. So it is coming, and it's getting quite a nice fall off here. And just make that a little more rough. Send this one here. And just playing around with these settings a little. I'm not going to spend a lot of time tweaking settings, I hope. I'm going to leave that mostly for you guys to tweak settings, and I'll just play around after the video and sort it out. Also, later on, not in this tutorial but in another video, we'll be covering doing some proper lighting, and we'll fix up a lot of the shaders then, so we'll be doing a lot more tweaking later on. Okay, so just going to grab this, switch over to HSV, and yeah, You don't usually want to play around with this value, by the way. Usually you want to just use the colour and then have your lighting affect the intensity of it. But as this is a grungy sort of feel I'm going for, that's the sort of thing I want. Alright, so that should be fine. Take this for now into the roughness value, and yeah, there we go. So that is going to be our base car paint shader at the moment. So that's fine like that. We don't have to worry too much about that one. What we will be doing next is we will be creating a rust shader. So we can do a complete procedural rust, by the way. There is a rust in that material library, but I think I might just use a texture for this one. So I'm just going to click the F here, which will save it so that we can actually just remove it from here, and it's still going to, it's always going to appear, so when we save our file it's not going to disappear when we reopen. Okay, so I'm going to click a new one, and we're going to create, let's go rust. Alright, so we're going to add in an image. So we got input, and actually we don't want input, we want texture, image texture. And we will add in a vector, a mapping, a input, a texture coordinates, and we might actually just go input and go from one of these. Attribute, that's one we want. Alright, so I don't want an attribute, I don't want this one, I want just an attribute. So on this door, we are going to rename this first one to texture, and we're going to create a new one, and this one here is going to be called tile. Now I generally do that for every single object. I haven't in this case, but we'll do that as we go through. And what it is texture. It's for anything that's mapped directly onto the UVs. So it needs to be, it's not tiled effectively, and tile is one that is tiled. So you can see we can scale this one out, and then the original one will remain the same. So we'll call this one here tile, and bring this vector over to here, and we can get rid of that mapping node. Bring that color into there, open up a texture, and I'm just going to find a texture that I like. So if I bring up my textures directory over here, any textures I end up with will not be included in the resources, just to make that clear. But you can jump on to freetexturesite.blogspot.com. So if I bring this over, there we go. Alright, so this one here is just a list of free texture sites, and that's from freetexturesite.blogspot.com. And this is that material collection, by the way, which is available on BlendSwap and on Blender Artists for free download. I would recommend you guys get that one, and as I said, made by Meta and Drocto. Okay, so coming back to textures, we want to go into my static textures, inorganic, metal, rusted, and I don't know where half of these textures come from, by the way, but most of them are from those free texture sites. Okay, so we can come up and we can So browse, so this is a rusted texture that's already got the metal underneath. We probably don't want that. More likely be one of these ones that we would want. It's not tileable, but that's okay. It's another one, and I do quite like this one. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is quite a high resolution texture. I might bring this into Photoshop and see if I can just grab a section here and make it tileable. So if we bring open Photoshop, I'll stick this one in here. It's Photoshop CS6, by the way. You can use any version you want, but CS6 is very good, effectively. Alright, so what we want to do is we just want to select probably maybe a region around here, and we're going to make this tileable. Alright, so I might as well just download a tiled Rust texture from CG Textures. So this is Rust 01417L, and yeah, so it's a little bit better. I'm just going to resize this one here to be a 1K texture, and yeah, it's fine. And 1K tile. Alright, just so we can use this is a Rust like so. If I just zoom in here, this should be fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a specular map from this. We might as well do a bump map as well. Cycles does not support normal maps, it only does bump maps at this stage. So yeah, we will be creating a bump map. Alright, so first things first, it's got to be black and white and be a alright, so high contrast red. Alright, we're going to throw in a invert node, and we'll layer, these aren't nodes, sorry, and let's just jump into curves and just crank up the contrast of this. Alright, now we're going to jump into levels and just make sure that there's no pure white and no pure black, and they are not your friend usually. They can work, but you know. Alright, so that's what it was before, and we want it to be shiny where it isn't yellow. So, like so. And this is going to be our specular map. Underscore spec. And we can probably just use that as a bump map actually. Yeah, we'll give that a go as a bump map, see how well Cycles handles with that. Okay, so let's jump into textures, static, inorganic, metal. I'm going to go to rusted, tile, 1K tile, and where did I save this one? Oh, I saved it as a PSD. My mistake. JPEG. Alright, so 1K tile, that's the texture we want, and that is what it looks like at the moment. So we can scale this up, and it's going to create a different effect. Now remember, it doesn't matter if you can see it tiling. Like at the moment you can really see that, you know, it's going tile, 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 tile. That doesn't matter. It's yeah, it really doesn't matter because we're going to have paint over top of this anyway. It's not going to be purely purely done like that. Okay. So let's come in and we're going to add in a, we're going to duplicate this, use the same vector, going to jump into the tile, grab that specular, and we're going to go Shift A, add in a shader, add in a glossy shader, and we're going to go add in shader, mix shader. Right, so mix this one with this one based on this one's colour and throw it into there. Okay, so you can see it's all gone like that at the moment, and we're going to throw in this colour into there, and we can see where it's going quite glossy. So that's about right. I don't think we need to invert these. Nah, it's alright like that. Yeah. Alright, so this is what it's like at the moment. You can see it's very glossy. It's not going to be anywhere near that glossy. So we're going to go shader, we're going to go colour, and we're going to go mix. And you can do this just as easily with a math node, but I quite like it doing it this way. And multiply it by black, and you can adjust it how much you have with this slider here. So 1 is going to be not at all, and we can just bring in a little bit. And just let that render for a bit. And get rid of that one going into volume. Alright, so we're going to grab this. We are going to go Shift D, grab the colour into this one. Going to bring the output colour into displacement and turn that right down to, so we're going to go mix. Where's the mix? This one here, we're going to go mix. You can set this to a 0.5 and 0.5, 0.5. So a value of 1 is 0 bump, and then you can add in a little bit. So that is 10% bump, which is very, very overpowering. You want to be very subtle with bump. Maybe a 0.97, maybe a little more, 0.95. And yeah, that should be good for this. Alright. That is, oh, I was wondering why it was going a little funny. We had HSV at 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. We need RGB 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. There we go. Okay, so what we can also do is we can go input, we can grab value inputs, we can name these. So I'm going to bring one up here, going to call this one here let's call this we can go gloss. We can call this gloss up here as well. There we go. And this one here we are going to call bump. And we're just going to take these values and we're going to plug them in. And that gives us a nice way that we can easily have these attributes connected, and we can at a glance just come in here and see we have gloss and bump. These are the ones to change and sorted. So we'll save that. So that's our rust done and our paint shader done. We also have to do our what's next? We have to do the underlying metal. So I'm just going to make that one there its own user, and we are going to create a new one. This one here, we're going to call this one here shader. Let's call this metal base. Find it over here. Grab an image and we'll find an image. So I'll just jump in here. Go into metal bear. Might have some good ones. So you can see we have this sort of stuff. It's probably not what we want. Galvanized perhaps. Galvanized metal always has a nice look to it. So I'm going to grab this one here, metal galvanized 0022, sorry, underscore 7 underscore L, and that's the CG texture. Okay, so we'll just go up a couple, we'll go to galvanized. Bring that colour into colour. And we'll go input, attribute, tile. Check that in there. We can also come in and it's mapped alright actually, but I will add in a mapping coordinates as well. So we can adjust that individually should we need to. Alright, so let's go at a curves. No, I don't think we have a curves. No, we don't. But we do have a brightness and contrast. That'll do. So what I'm going to do is add in a shader, add in a glossy shader. Going to use, let's go, throw that one into here, sure it plugs in, and going to add in a shader, a mix shader. Going to use this as a factor value to mix together these two shaders. Right, and just turn contrast up, and you'll be able to see where it's mixing. So we're getting this effect going on here. If I zoom in, bit, you can see that it's bringing out that gloss quite a lot. Alright, so take it down to perhaps 1.5-ish or 1.35. Yeah, something like that, and then just you can turn the brightness up, which will make it more gloss, and we can turn the brightness down, which will make it more diffuse. So I want this to be reasonably glossy, but not too much. And I'm just going to add in a Fresnel, change this to perhaps a 1.3, and then use that as the roughness. Alright, so that's our underlying metal at the moment, which is galvanized. Okay, now if you want to, you can actually come in and turn this up to like 10 in Y, and you get the stretch effect going. So if I go, it's 1 there, and go 10 in X, we get this very scratched look, so you can see it comes across and just stretches all the way. So you can increase this more if you want, to perhaps 30. That will really stretch it up. Or I might actually come down to 10, just go 0.5, 5. So yeah, something like that will be fine for now. We can edit this later, so that'll be fine for our metal base. Right, so we'll save that user, save the file, and check what's next on the agenda. Alright, so we've got these ones here going. The other one that we need to do is dust, but we might do that one there a little bit later. Yeah, we kind of need to like layer this metal shader, so we need to layer the metal and the rust and everything. It's going to be painted textured layers, so very prominent like that. Might actually... yeah, that's going to be fine like that for now. So let's go ahead and we're going to do a dusty shader. Okay, so let's remove that metal one. We can refine these later, by the way. I'm pretty sure I've said that a few times, but yeah, it's just about getting them in place. Okay, so this one here we're going to go shader dirt, and this one's just going to be a very dirty shader. And actually what I might do for this one is I might just go File, I'm just going to save this first, File, Append, and we're going to go into Blends, Shaders, and into that material library, and if I go into the material, we have a massive amount of materials in here, and one of these is a sand shader. Earth, dirt, earth, I don't think it's earth, dirt, I'm pretty sure it's called earth, sand. There it is up here, earth, sand. I might import earth, dirt as well, and just see we'll get. So I'm just going to link those two in. And see what we've got. So if I'm just going to remove that shaded dirt for now. I'm going to go Earth Dirt. And you see these are very advanced material setups, so I'm not going to go and explain how each of these work, but yeah. Let's try Earth Sand. And you can see we get some nice options with these ones as well. They have been quite professionally set up. I believe Meta and Doctor set them all up quite well for everyone. And you just want to come through and adjust your scales. So perhaps the scale would be best set at 2 or 1. Just give this a render for a couple of seconds. Might be a little too little, so just going to crank that up to 15, maybe 3. 2. Yeah, and this will probably be fine for now. You can also come in and edit these colours here, so perhaps you might want this a little bit more. Just a little bit more saturated, or you can have it a little darker. So just a note before you go and edit these things, you should probably leave them as they are to start with. So it's about here-ish before. And what you do is you go add input RGB, and we duplicate this one, and then if you ever want to get back to what it was, you can do that. So that's a sort of an easy way to adjust things. So something like that. And as I said, we can adjust it later, and it's going to be blended very lightly over the top anyway. We'll have another one as well, but that'll do for this one. So I'm going to rename this one. This one here is going to be called Shader Dirt Light, because we'll also have a thicker, dirtier one as well, which is effectively going to be the same shader, just slightly modified. And yeah, that's that one there. Press F to save that, and I'm going to remove that one, and I'm going to import another material. So let's go append. You can dynamically link these as well, but I think it's better just to append them, because we will be editing them. And we want to grab a rubber material. So we'll grab one of these. Be synthetic rubber. There we go. And I'm just going to find this one. Alright, and this is the rubber shader. Now the rubber shader I'm not going to tweak any settings on at the moment. We can probably change them a little later, but it's fine for now. It's going to make more sense to adjust them when it's on the wheels. Which is effectively going to be the main area we have them. So I might just rename this. Actually no, we will leave this at rubber for now. Get that single user and remove that. Okay, so no shaders on this at the moment. That is effectively our shaders set up. We can go through now, we can add on a few shaders to several materials and see effectively what it's looking like. But yeah, it's looking good at the moment. So we'll, what we'll be doing is we'll be blending shaders together, and yeah, I'm just going to grab a drink and I will come back and we'll start on that. Alright, so are you guys ready to get into some texture painting? Because that is what we're going to be doing now. So I'm just going to move these around. Actually, yeah, that'll do for now. Alright, so what we're going to be doing is having several textures, specifically underneath this texture node here. So we need to create a few blends. So I'm just going to create up a, I've not Photoshop, just kind of show you how it works. Alright, so we're going to have a few layers. We have our, I'll just ignore the background layer. We have right at the bottom, we will have our metal shader. So it's going to be this grey. Above that we have our rust shader, which is going to be this kind of a orangey red tone. Above that we will have our paint shader, which is going to be this blue. And above that we will have our dust shader, which is going to be a light yellow. So dust and dirt, by the way. Okay, so this is the several layers that we have. Now to blend these we need to fade them out. So dust, we ignore dust for now because that goes on top. But what we do is we grab this blue paint here and we come through and we add in a layer mask, and we sort of just blend through some pieces. So if we just decrease that size, we can, it's just going to be quick at the moment, by the way. So something like this, and you can come around some very fine lines. You can switch your colours back and get some stuff happening. Alright, so this is our rusted hole. Now, underneath this, we have another layer where it's come through to the metal underneath. Something like so. And you can see how we're going through the layers here. And the dust one on the top, this one is like generally just goes over like a, probably an overlay for this one. and we would, let's just go normal for this one, and for this one we would use a cloudyish sort of brush, so something perhaps like one of these. Alright, that'll do. Okay, well this isn't an actual brush that I was hoping to use, but so we'll get some build up in the corners, up over here, move some over around duster, where the dust is, and just turn that size up a bit. Around here, and we invert it and we go back over and we scratch them out. And maybe some more over here, maybe there's a big grinding patch over by a wheel rim or something. And that is how the dust layer goes. And of course there's going to be a lot of finer detail around, so in this one here we can come through and we can select it and we can sort of just refine outside it a little. Let's go. I'm using the completely wrong brush here, but oh well. Okay, so now this one here, we're going to go Control Shift I, and we would oh, my mistake. Make sure you're using the right layer. Alright, so this one here would come in a bit, and then would blur out the middle there, and we'll get this sort of thing going on. So we've got the dust, we've got the paint, we've got the rust, and then we've got the metal underneath. And we just need to blend between these and get them working, and then all these masks, these are the masks that we save out into images, and then we have those set for each object. So we will have a rust mask, a paint mask, and a dust mask for every single object, and that has it effectively. Yeah, it's you can dynamically do it. You can do it by plugging in the ambient occlusion pass into it, but it's just easier to do it this way, and it saves, if a panel flies off, the dust isn't going to suddenly disappear because it was dynamic. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Same as if you deform a mesh and it's got a procedural rust texture on it, the texture is going to start moving around, and it's just not realistic at all. So that's why I prefer to use textures to mask in between them. But yeah, by all means, you can feel free to use a procedural if you want. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so we will create a new shader. This one here, I'm going to go shader panel, and this one is going to mix between several pieces. So we'll have a separate shader for each item, effectively. Yeah. So I'm going to make it a original panel shader, and then what we're going to do is we're going to group it, and we're going to create several shaders that come off of that group. So go shader panel main for now. Alright. So we want to grab our car paint shader, this one here. That comes out with the surface over here, so I'm just going to grab these and not that one, Control G to group that, and I'm just going to call this one here Shaded Group and Car Paint. Okay, so let's come in and we're going to attach this colour that we've got here onto all of them. So if I remove that one and that one, we can just drag those across. And now we have a single colour that if we unplug it, just chuck that in there. It is yeah, just a single one there. And yeah, that is all we need to do for that one. So we now have a group that we can add in. So add in group and shader group car paint. We're going to do the same for the rust. So shader rust. And you can see for this one here we have our two pieces up here, so I'm just going to Control G to group these. I'm going to call this one here Shader Group Rust. And I might also grab a it's called a vector input over here. So we've got these two vectors coming in, got that bump in our gloss. We can name these by selecting this and just going bump gloss for those ones, and just going to go add in a texture coordinate, no, not a texture coordinates, going to add in a vector mapping node and throw that one to there. There, and we can adjust this one should we need to. And you can actually add a driver to this and have a value over there that drives it, but I'm not going to bother with that at the moment. Okay, so that's our rust one. Just going to save this. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll add in the rubber one. This one here needs a group, so I'm just going to go Control G. And this one here, I'm going to call this shader group. Let's call rubber. Save that. And go through them. What else we got? We've got dirt is done. Dirt light is already done. So, shader dirt. We don't need this. So, this one here you can see we don't need it. It's got diffuse and then material output. And there's nothing else there. So we obviously didn't use it. We can shift click on that and it will turn it to a 0 user so that it won't be used. Okay, so this one here is shader metal base. This one here is going to be very dependent on the scale of the object. So I'm just going to Control G to group these. I'm going to go shader group, metal base, and it has our vector info there, which gets plugged in. We'll just have to remember to add in them when we use that one. Shader panel main, that's one we're about to do. What else have we done? Not quite sure why I've got that vector coming off, but I would like to have the vector coming in. So we can do that by just dragging this over when we get to the vector over there. And we can just add in a mapping node here and add in an input attribute and call this one here tile. So that's that one. So that's our rust. It's got rubber is fine. Your base is done. Dirt is done. Dirt, we didn't need that one. Yeah. Okay, that's done. So we can come back down to our panel main. We can go in, add in our attribute, call this one here tile. Add in our vector mapping. Bring that in there. And I'm going to add in a input a group. So we're going to use the car paint. We're going to use the metal base. We're going to use the rust. And we're going to use the dirt one, which I don't believe I named. Shader dirt, right? Oh, it's just called sand here. So this one here, just going to call this one here shader group dirt. Shader group dirt. So we have all of our panels here. Fortunately, we only really have to set this one up once. So we have our dirt as it goes on the top, then we have our car paint, then we have, so this is the metal base that goes down there, and we have our rust there. Alright, so the ones that require vector inputs, we can plug in our vector. We can move around those to suit, and we're going to go color. Oh, actually, no, we're not going to do a color mix, we're going to do a shader. Mix shader, and we're going to mix these together. So we're just going to plop a shader there. We're going to duplicate this one. We may need to change the order of these a little bit later. But this will do for now. Alright, chuck that one into there. Delete that one, we don't need it anymore. And we also want to do a colour and colour mix. We want to mix together this one with this one for the displacement. Now the displacement is going to be a bit finicky because we want to get these two do not have any displacement on them. So we need to actually mix these together as well. So we'll have one there, one there, one there. So I'm just going to do them up down here. Throw that one in there, and this one comes down to this one. and we can adjust it from there. So this is our base shader setup. Next we need to add in a texture, an image texture. We're going to add in a mix. This one here, we're going to set this to a multiply by a white, which will do nothing but allows us to effectively adjust this. So we can duplicate these. Going to bring these across. So we will have 3 of these, and we'll connect these accordingly. Alright, now it looks a little messy, but because we've organised the nodes in the right way, it's fairly easy to read still. We've got our images over here that we need to add. These are our settings to adjust, and this stuff is just mixing it all together until it comes over here. Alright, so that is the shading network for the panels. What we need to do is we need to set up a few textures. So see, the texturing setup is slightly different in Cycles than it is to Blender. So we'll probably switch over to the Blender internal render for now. Blender render. And you can see shader panel main has this weird setting going on here. But we can set up a few different pieces. So we just uncheck that node data. Or we can actually just go, I think it's this one. Oh. Anyways, you can just get rid of those nodes for now, and you can always just switch them back to use them. Alright, so what we're going to do is we are going to make sure we have our texture selected, and we are going to go into our texture paint. So I'm going to get rid of all of these. Don't need them for now. All I want is this one and this one. Don't even need the outliner. And we're going to go into texture paint, and down here we have all of our options. So we're going to add in a color, and it will come up here saying GP door color, and we can rename this to GP door, let's go mask. It's always tricky thinking of the names, because you've got to stick with the names of the rest of the thing. So I'm just going to go mask paint would be the best one, I reckon. Alright, I'm just going to go file, save as, and I'm just going to save this as version 3. Alright, we can just start painting on this really, and you can paint in anything you like. So this one here is effectively just going to be painting in the rust texture for us. So temp 1177. There's a lot of temp. Just get rid of that. We want to go to the curve settings, give this a sharp fall off. So maybe something a little bit Alright, so it has a little bit of fall off now. You can also come in, you can have the radius be affected by your stroke, so you can push it around and do general things like that. Make sure that one's set to texture, And let's start painting in some rust. Actually, before we start painting in some rust, we'll look at some references. So I'm going to bring up my references folder over here. Let's bring up this one here was a concept art. You can see this one doesn't actually have much rust, but you can see where all the dirt goes and how things build up down the bottom. Grab Mad Max. Yeah, this one didn't have a lot of rust either. See, these are very dirty, but they're not particularly rusty. Post-apocalyptic. This folder has some rusty stuff in it. Alright, so I'll find one that's... This is kind of what I mean, like, you know, the rust comes around and it sort of drips down. We're not going to be focusing too much on the drips, but we will be doing a lot of rusty things. Alright, so that's that folder. There's a Death Race, I think, had some good references in it. This scratching, we're going to be doing a lot of that. I'll literally, this texturing section will probably be taking a few hours. So, here we go, you can kind of see the rusty patches. This rust doesn't look realistic at all, the way it's come around. You can see it's kind of been man-made, that rust. Yeah. Right, so this one here is quite rusty. You can see where it builds up. So yeah, it's kind of the thing that I'm talking about at the moment. Yeah, so let's move that across and let's start just painting in some rust. Alright, so we can change our size down a little. We can just come in and blur it up a little. Might just have a bit of a softer fall off. Just for now, I'll focus on some little details in a bit. Alright, so we're going to have a bit of rust built up around here. Texture painting settings, going to turn off normal, going to turn off occlude, and no, we don't want to turn off occlude, we want to turn off cull. That's the one we want. So yeah, you can see it goes like that. So effectively, occlude will stop you being able to paint on the back faces. So it's yeah. So you can see how I mean it's just paints straight through everything. Culling, this one here means if the face is facing away from you, you can't paint on it. Always have that off. It's really annoying. Sometimes you might need it on, but not really. Normal changes the angle at which you can paint. So you can see over here, if I come over this angle, I can paint the whole way across, no worries. But if I turn on normal, I stop halfway. And I've never found a use for that. It's sort of like, if you've used Murray, if I've used Murray, I've got that down there, here we go. The normal in that works fantastic. But the normal in Blender just doesn't compare. I don't know, maybe I'm just not using it right, but yeah, at the moment I've found it just doesn't seem to work quite as well as I had hoped it would. There we go, that's a much thicker brush now. So I'm painting in just black at the moment. And this is effectively just going to be a mask. Alright, so you might have a few pieces in the middle here. maybe a piece like this, and we can just come up with white and just erase that a little. Alright. So coming through, we can paint a little bit of rust around here. Don't go overboard with the rust, but do have an effort to make it look nice. The nicer you make it look, the better it will show. And this first panel is probably going to take the longest out of all the panels, simply for the fact that it's while we're setting everything up. Once you get into the next ones, you'll be going quite fast, and by the time you see I get to the last panels, you'll notice I'm half just going really fast because I've gotten used to it. I'm half just over texture painting and just skipping through it. So I kind of expect you guys to do a lot of painting. Yeah. Remember, paint any worn areas. You're going to want to paint those as well. Because we will need to get the rust or the bare metal into these areas as well. Alright, so you can see I've missed a few areas here. Alright, so let's come in and we're just going to refine this little selection a little. Just make it look a little more random. At the moment it's just way too sharp. And I'm just going along with my tablet and adjusting the sensitivity as I go. It would be nice if we had a more random, more settings for the brush, but unfortunately texture painting is fairly new, so yeah. So far this is what we've got at the moment. And I'm going to start off with one door, and we'll work on getting a few in a bit. So I'm basically going to show you how to do one object, and then I'm just going to go and do the rest of the stuff, rest of these panels. Yeah, there's no point you sitting here for 5 hours while I paint things. Because, yeah, probably got a few hours to go on this. It's due tonight actually, this tutorial, so I can guarantee this tutorial will be done in a few hours because I literally have no choice. Alright, Alright, so that'll do for now. That's a standard metal. I might actually blend some scratches over the top of this one, I'm not sure. So yeah, you can have several layers. You don't have to be limited to just those ones. Okay, so that's our Rust layer at the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the UV image editor. Going to go select that image. Which is where it's still set to color. This one. I'm going to call this one that. And we're going to go image, save as image, and we're going to save this one into our textures under panels, and I'm going to call this one here GP door mask paint. And yeah, you can even create a new directory, so I'm just going to create a new directory for door. I'm going to throw it in there. So now we can switch back into the Cycles rendering engine. Use nodes on this. We can bring down that's a lot of stuff. Got a UV image editor. Oh, not UV image, we want the where is it? Node editor, that's the one I want. Alright, so we've got all these nodes. And we want to open up that image. And let's just save this and see how this looks. Let's switch into rendered view. And I'm going to unplug displacement for now. And this is currently what it's looking like. So we plugged in the wrong one there, so let's have that plugged into color. Same with this one, color, color. Okay, now you can see how this is the wrong way around. I've got my mask inverted, so it should be the other way around. Easiest way to do that, just open up Photoshop. And we're going to open up that texture. So that is over in here. Going to go textures. We can progress panels to this one. And create a new layer underneath it, by the way. Just go fill that with white. Control Shift E, Control I, Control S. Save that. No, done. Image, reload image. And just jump back into render view. So this needs to be the wrong way around. Alright, so let's just go color invert. just going to disconnect those for now. So you can see the effect that we've got going on. If I just grab the, oh, that's our dirt one that we've just blended. So I'm going to ignore the dirt one for now. So just going to plug that shader directly into this shader, and so that's our dirt we've just ignored. I'm going to grab this one and take this mask into there. I might just get rid of that dirt. Yeah. Alright, so just checking where I've got this plugged in. I don't at the moment. That would make sense. Alright, so this is what it's looking like at the moment. Got these rusty bits everywhere, and we've got our galvanized part coming through. So I'm just going to get rid of these nodes until we create them. It's going to be a little bit easier to work with. So we just have this one and alright. So we have this shader on the top. We're going to add in a group. We're going to add in the rust. Grab that vector in, pull that shader over to this one, and use this as the mask. Okay. So that is the first one done. This is our rust is now coming through. So as you can see there, we have a rusty texture, which is fine. So we can come back over into texture paint, and you can see our textures are still loaded in, and we can still add them, we can still do what we want here. So I'm going to add in another one. This one here we're going to be calling, instead of colour, it's going to be called mask rust for the rust one. And you can pull that up here, mask rust, and which we don't really need to pull that up. Alright, so what we're going to do is paint on this one here white within these areas, effectively. So if I just turn off one, so we can paint in around here. We can paint outside of here as well, and I'm pretty sure I'm painting on the, yeah, I am too. Switch over to blend and render. This might be a bit easier to paint with. There we go. Alright, so uncheck use nodes. We're going to come through and we're going to just set this one here to be multiply, set this one here to be multiply. should have done it. Things Blender, it's never simple. Alright, so our mask one, if we just switch this over to screen, perhaps we'll give this a black colour. Shadeless, there we go. Alright, so we can see it now. Grab this one, can turn this over to screen and diffuse colour. Perhaps we can mix these. So what I might do, something to make this just a little more easier to see, is I'm just going to remove these from here. I'm going to create a new material. So make sure that one's got a user, I'm just going to remove it. New material, and this one here is going to be test. It's going to be shadeless. I'm going to load in those two textures. Make sure I've got those UVs set up. And we're actually going to load in some textures. So this one here, I'm going to load in a image or movie. I'm going to load in that rust texture. UV, set that to the tile UV. So we get this rust coming in. It's going to call this rust temp. This one here, I'm going to call this, let's go, what else do we have? We have metal temp, image or movie, and open up that metal galvanized. UV tile, just going to save this. Create a new one, and this one here, I'm just going to go create a blend, and I'm not sure if this one will pop up. No, it won't. Blends don't tend to pop up in the viewport there. So I'm just going to go image, new image. This one here is going to be blue. It's going to be 32 pixels by 32 pixels. And it's going to be, funnily enough, that blue colour. And that way we can just load it in here as blue. And we'll get that colour. Generated is fine. Alright, and what we can do is we can mask these out. So I'm hoping that this will work in the view here. one here, I'm going to go blue temp. Stencil. Yeah. Alright, so I actually had to pause the recording and figure out how to do stencils. I haven't done stencils in such a long time. But anyways, what we do is we put it in the middle there, in between the two layers, and we go RGB to intensity and stencil, and we uncheck colour. Check colour, so actually it doesn't do anything in the viewport, but it does strange things with the render. So anyways, yeah, that was it, and you can go negative to flip that around, and probably want to move that rust one down, have the rust underneath, and then we would have our next shader, which is our mask here, to mask out this one. So it masks out the one that's below it, by the way. Uncheck colour, so you can see how that's working. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got these all around the wrong way. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Negative on this one. And this is our mask for the rust, which is currently, if I bring it up, is a still called colour. So we need to rename this into this. We can come up here, we can grab the texture brush, press N to bring up a panel, and make sure that's all painted white. You can see that by turning on the alpha. It's not the other way around, isn't it? When you have it black. And what we're going to do is we are just going to paint just in the viewport. So I'm going to go back into texture paint. And we're going to use this mask rust. And we're going to paint in white, and that should be working. Having horrible troubles with this, aren't I? UV set to, there we go. Alright, so we can erase that now. Also bring back a few things. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add in a Hemi lamp. So I'm going to go add lamp, Hemi, just to get some lighting in the scene, and going to uncheck shadeless on this, just so we have a little bit of shading. And yeah, turn these back on. Turn specularity off. We don't care about the specular stuff. What we want is we just want to have these working. So in this one here, I'm going to image, save as image, and we're going to save that image there. And whenever we modify an image, we need to remember that it needs to be saved. So you go image save. Blender has a really bad habit of deleting images that have been created with texture paint. So yeah, stuff like that. And I might just create a new layer. So I'm going to go down a bit, create a new image. This one here is going to be called Scratches Temp. And what this is going to be is another image. New image. We're going to call this one here Scratches. And this is just an image that's going to be placed on top of the other ones as well. So get that as black, go OK. Load that up. UV, texture, affect the color. Alright. Cool. So we can now paint in this one here, and then it'll just get mixed up top. So we can probably set that to screen actually. And yeah. This is effectively just going to be some very sharp scratches going around. So that effectively allows us to have metal on top of our metal. Okay, so going back to this one, so you can see we can paint on this one, and what's it painting on? Doing this thing again. So I said texture painting can be very temperamental when you're using it with this. Alright, seems to be working for me now. I would tell you what settings I've changed, but literally I have changed no settings. So yeah, we can come through and we can just put a bit more detail into this rust patch. We can probably just squeeze that one across for now. We'll just get rid of it over there. Alright, so we've got this one down here as well, which is our metal panel. For the metal one, I'm going to use very soft fall off. something like this and bring it to black. And we're just going to bring back that rust. Bring it back a little stronger in some other places. But we do want to have some metal in here as well. Also, I'm finding that this is very rounded at the moment. We do want this to be quite sharp though, so bear that in mind. So I might load in a brush now. So I'm going to create a new brush. Going to just bring it up over here. And going to call this one here brush. Could be our current brush. Image or movie. Open, textures, brushes, and I'm going to use one of these. So I have a fair range of brushes. This is probably about, I don't know, quarter, third of my brushes that I've converted into images to use with Blender. And Murray, I use them in there as well. I might use this one. And if we go show alpha, we'll be able to see it over here. And you can see the look that we're getting. We get these circles that pop up. And it's not quite what we want. So you can turn the spacing down a little. Let's solve it. This should be working. I'm having a ton of problems today, aren't I? Alright, so I couldn't really get that working at all for some reason. But I've got a clouds texture set up anyway, so it'll be... it'll do. We'll do for this purpose anyway. I'm not really liking this clouds texture either. Yeah, might just paint it manually. Might be easier. Alright. So just grab this, perhaps give this strength and see a bit of a pressure sensitivity. just going to roughen up the edge a little. I can see myself spending hours trying to tweak this to look how I want, so I'm just going to leave it pretty much like this. Just maybe have mostly metal underneath. Not that it really matters, these panels, it's I just clear out that, make it small, and I'm just going to do a rim of rust. These panels are actually going to be underneath our armour, so unless our armour comes off, we won't see these at all. Yeah, just the rim's actually looking quite nice. So most of these panels are going to be set up with the Blender internal, and I'll switch them over to the cycles afterwards. Alright, so yeah, you can kind of see how that's working. Come through and bring these through. And once again, with the small brush, just going to come around and do the edge. It's been a while since I've painted rust like this. If you've ever used Murray, you can use what's called a rust brush. Alright, so not all of it needs to have these, but have rust on it, but rust definitely does help. So something like this would be good. Just a bit of a softer fall off for it. And this rust around here can be quite prominent. Also going to grab this door one and make sure I've got this one here selected. Switch to white and just make it very grainy. Notice how it's getting that very pixelated look on the edge. That's actually really good for car paint. Alright, so just like this is fine. And yeah, the top as well. Top is mostly fine actually. Yeah, apart from that around this area, just getting a little too rounded in some points. So switch back over. Add in a bit of rust. Doesn't all have to be rusty, but they will be quite rusty down the bottom here. So maybe add in a bit more rust and look it over. Alright. So that's all I'm going to do for the rust for now. As I said, I'm going to go through and do all of that later. So we're going to jump over to the next one, which is going to be these scratches, and these ones here is going to be, pull it over, pull up my scratches. Alright, jump to the material, make sure our settings are alright. So I've got UV, set to texture, set to colour and screen, and yeah, that should be painting. Alright, so it is appearing. It's just seems to think it's a stencil for some reason. Oh, I'm hating this at the moment. So yeah, it is showing. There it is there, as you can see. We can paint it in, but it's just what I'm going to do then. So I'm going to bring that all the way to the top. So when you uncheck colour, uncheck normal, check stencil, and RGB to intensity, and negative. Alright, and might be able to do that one. Alright, image, new image, 32 by 32, this one is going to be called white, going to fill it with white, And because I left alpha on, I'm also going to paint over it with white. Yep, white there. And oh, actually before I do that, let's go that one, check this button. I'm just going to call this white, and I'm going to bring up white here. Okay, so with our scratches now, we can actually start adding in some scratches. Alright, so that's going to be just around the edges and stuff. It's going to be quite sharp, and it's going to be just around here. Normally use a high resolution. For most of the mesh I'm going to be using quite a high resolution, but for this one here, be at the most seen about this distance, so it'll be fine like that. Some scratches around this handle. And I was painting straight through there, so this is where that the options come in handy. So under project paint, you can turn on cull, and we can paint through here, and it won't come up over the other side. Alright, so that makes sense. Not going to be a whole lot of scratches here, because this door would have been here a long time. So yeah, that'll do. Come in and get rid of that one. Alright. And that's going to be fine like that. Going to come in here, I'm going to go to mask rust. So this is our rust mask here. Going to go image, save image. And actually we can come in here and we can go save paint layers. And that will save all of them to, oh, no, let's put them into a new layer. That wasn't what I wanted at all. Save as image, we want to save that one there. And I want to remap this one back over to the panels, door, and this one was, actually this one was, what's this? This is scratches. Okay, that was our mask rust, so we want to save our mask paint, save as image, and save that one there, and load up the scratches. It's renamed it to scratches temp, so I'm going to save this one into door. We're going to call this one here scratches. And those were our 3 textures there. So we have one more to create. I'm going to create a new one. This one here I'm going to call GP door mask dirt. Image or movie, new, paste that in there, so mask dirt, and so here we'll just leave that a moment. Okay, and we'll come in and we'll find mask dirt. Move that all the way to the top. This one here we're going to go UV, set that to texture, uncheck color, check RGB to intensity and stencil. It's going to stencil whatever's above it there, so I'm going to create a new one. This one here we're going to go image or movie, to open up a dirt texture, so I'm going to go into my textures folder, static, organic, and let's go to ground, I suppose, dirt and sand. Let's just go this one here, sandy texture. Call the sand temp. It's going to be UV's tile for this one. It's going to affect color. And one more. Okay, so there we go. So this is our dirty texture that we're going to be using. And we're going to be painting on it, this one. So I'm of course going to through, so we're going to grab this one, grab the mask dirt, go GP mask dirt, this one. So this is the one we want, so we can paint and see how it doesn't come up over there. So we can uncheck these, make sure we haven't painted through. So for paint at the moment, we're currently painting on the scratches temp layer, even though says we're not painting on scratches temp, we actually are. We want to be painting on this one, so I'm not sand temp, we're going to be painting on this one. There we go, now it's going to work. It's very temperamental today, I'm not quite sure why, but not a whole lot I can do about that one. Okay, so we've gone over it there. What I'm going to do is load up a texture. We're going to just use that clouds texture, should be fine. I might use F2 minus F1. Maybe F1. Okay, so and curve. And you can see we're painting on really strongly at the moment. We're just going to drop that strength right down. So we're going to put that under the pressure sensitivity, something about there, and now you can see we're painting on this very softly. So dirt would build up down around these areas. Build up around here a little, around over here. It's going to build up a little over the entire thing, but because this is underneath another panel, but especially these areas down around here. Alright, so go over this a bit. And just some dirt on the inside as well. This will be seen on the inside. So we're going to do that still. We're going to still do some rust and some scratches in there. But yeah, in general, that's going to be fine like this. Okay, so I'm going back to object mode. I'm going to save this. I'm going to switch back to, actually before we switch back we want to go image and save on this one. Save as image. This one here, it's going to be the same name but it's going to be called dirt. So with all of those sorted, we can isolate these, and so we'll just go Shift H for everything else. And what we're going to do is switch over into Cycles Render, bring up the node editor, make sure we check use nodes, and not on this one. That's right, leave use nodes for there for now. And we're just going to go shader, panel, main, use nodes. Alright, so we can grab these. So we want to mix together the car paint shader with the other groups. So we have this one here, which is the rust. So that was the first one we did. We mixed together the car paint with the rust. We also want to mix together a group. We want to grab the metal base, duplicate these down, and throw a vector into this one, plot it across like so. We use this one as the factor value, and this one here we are going to grab and adore the mask rust, and that one there, yep. Alright, so duplicate this one again. And this is the metal we've got here, so on top of these ones, actually, what do we got? Alright. So just mixing these up, we are going to duplicate another one of these. This one here is going to be, we have the dirt, which goes on top of the entire thing. And we also have the scratches, which will go just before that, I think. I always get a little confused when our nodes get very very large, but yeah, that's right. Alright, so this one here is going to be the factor of the merge between this shader and this is just this scratches, so I'm going to grab a color, brighten with contrast node. I'm going to grab this metal and I should just go color shader mix and shader glossy. Throw that in there, that one in there, and that one into there, and that'll just make it a little more intense for that metal that we've already set up. Duplicate this one again. Going to plug that one into there. Going to add in a group, add in a dirt group. This one goes on the bottom. Going to grab this one out from here, plug that into the factor value over there, and that is our final shader for our surface anyways. We also need to do the bump as well, so if I go Shift A color mix, we're going to grab the color of this one and we're going to grab the color of this one and we want to mix these together based on their respective things. So this one here is our rust, so we want to show the rust in between these, so just grab 4 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so I'll leave that one there. Throw that into this one and use our shader, use this. Colour in off here, and that would go into our displacement. Alright, so based on this, I'm pretty sure we can just take this one straight into there, delete those two, and I'm just going to see how well this works. So that's our shader at the moment, and how it's looking. So save it, we're going to jump into rendered view, and cross our fingers, hope this works. Alright, now you can see that our metal there is not coming through, I think. We've got our dirt coming through, and some red in there from somewhere. That's one thing we need to do. Going to duplicate this. Going to call this one here texture. And we're going to map this into the nodes. So if we bring this into these, that might fix our problem. I'm just going to pause the recording and see if I can figure out why I've got this black splotch here. I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so the problem I was having was they were just in the wrong order. I flipped them around and now it's working. Also this dirt shader, it's causing a few artifacts. It was causing that black stuff only with the glossiness that was on the shader up here. So I'm not overly sure why that's happening, but that is fine. It's looking right like this at the moment. So it's slowed down a lot, but that's right. So that is the finished panel with the dirt, with the rust, with everything. It's not an overly complex node group. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. What I'm going to do is stop this, and then in the next step we'll go through all of the panels and all of the armor, and it's just going to be the same sort of stuff for the next few hours. So yeah, grab a cup of tea or coffee and we will get right into it.